Imagine waking up tomorrow and knowing that you don't have to go into work today or go into work again. Not because you won the lottery or inherited millions of dollars, but simply because your investments generate enough for you to live and pay your bills each month. This is the idea behind FIRE, or financial independence, retire early. But is this actually possible for the average person? Or is it just another internet fantasy for people that make $500,000 a year? Let's find out. So, financial independence isn't really retiring at 35 and spending the rest of your life on vacation on a beach. It's about having enough invested that work becomes optional. And if you love your job, that's awesome. And you can keep on working if you'd like. But if you want to travel, start that business, or spend more time with your family, or finally leave your toxic job, financial independence gives you that freedom to do so. So, how much do you actually need to do this? A common guideline in the fire community is called the 25 times rule. And the idea behind this is pretty straightforward. You take your annual expenses and multiply them by 25. So if you spend $40,000 per year, you'd want to aim for roughly 1 million invested. If you spend 60,000, you need about 1.5 million. And as you can see, as this continues on, every $20,000 in annual spend will increase your portfolio needs by $500,000. And this rule is based on what is often called the 4% withdrawal guideline. Historically, a diversified portfolio has been able to support annual withdrawals around 4% over long retirement periods. But it's a guideline and not a guarantee. Markets fluctuate, inflation will change over time, and of course, everyone's situation is different. But here's the part that surprises most people. Reaching financial independence isn't just about earning as much money as you possibly can, like you might think. It's about keeping more of what you earn already. So we can imagine a scenario with two people making the same identical salary of $100,000 a year. Person one spends nearly all of it, and person two lives on 50,000 and invests the rest. Even though they make the exact same amount each year, the second person will reach financial independence years or maybe even decades earlier because their investments are growing for them while their lifestyle remains relatively modest. Instead of thinking of investing as putting money away and locking away for, say, 20 or 30 years, you can think of it as hiring employees for yourself. Every single dollar that you invest will become a tiny worker for you, earning more and more money. And the earnings gained from that will actually go back to work as well. So over time, your money starts earning more than you're actually contributing to your portfolio. So let's take a look at an example of a $10,000 initial investment with a $500 monthly contribution, gaining an 8% annual return for 30 years. So if you take a look at the graph, you can notice what happens. At first, the growth looks slow, but after about 15 to 20 years, the curve starts to get steeper and steeper. And that's because your money or your investment returns are actually generating returns of their own. And time's doing most of the heavy lifting for you and actually out earning what you're contributing. So the underlying premise here is that time is very important in regards to investing. So we can really look at another example here and highlight that point. Let's look at someone that starts investing at age 25 and retires at 65, so 40 years of investing, versus someone that starts just 10 years later at age 35. Now, keep in mind, both of these individuals are investing $500 a month. The person who started 10 years earlier has dramatically more wealth, even though they both invested the same exact amount each and every month over and over again. Now, of course, investing isn't enough if you just keep increasing your spending every single time your income increases. And this is called lifestyle inflation. So you get a raise, so you upgrade your apartment, then your car, then you start taking more vacations. And before you know it, you're making twice as much as you did just 5 years ago, but you haven't really gained any wealth and you might even still be living paycheck to paycheck. Instead, every single raise is an opportunity. If you invest most of the increase instead of spending it, your path to financial independence dramatically speeds up without making it feel like you're sacrificing your current lifestyle. Another big mistake people make is trying to time the market. When stocks fall, many investors panic and sell. And then when they recover, they buy back in. But due to this, they usually miss the biggest gains. Historically, markets have experienced large downturns followed by recoveries. And of course, no one can predict exactly when those will happen. Staying consistently invested has often outperformed simply just trying to guess the perfect time to buy or sell. Also, it's very important to remember that retirement isn't free just because you've stopped working. You, of course, have to account for taxes, healthcare costs, inflation, and unexpected expenses. And your financial plan should have some flexibility instead of assuming that everything will go perfect. But I have some good news, and that is that financial independence does not require a six-figure income. Of course, earning more definitely helps, but your savings rate, investing consistently, and the amount of time that your investments have to grow is just as important or maybe even more important. Whether your goal is to retire at 40, 50, or simply having enough money to pick the life that you want, the path is surprisingly straightforward. Spend less than what you earn, invest the difference consistently, and give your investments time to grow. Financial independence isn't about getting rich overnight. It's about building a life, your life, where your money works harder than you do. And the sooner you start, the more options you'll have in the future. So the question isn't whether financial independence is possible. It's what could your life look like if work became a choice instead of a necessity?